Thanks a lot to the EPIF team to give me the opportunity to share with you some views on the AML package recently adopted by the Commission. Unfortunately, I can't join you today in person. However, looking at the program and having listened to some previous debates, I can only congratulate the organization for this high-level event. We probably all agree on the need for a more harmonized AML package, which could be at the same time more effective, more efficient and proportionate. Indeed, the patchy regulatory framework grown over the last 30 years since the adoption of the first AML directive has not fully delivered, to say the least. Indeed, the amount of criminal proceeds recovered remains shockingly low. According to Europol, for the period 2010-2014, 2% of the estimated proceeds of crime were provisionally seized or frozen, and only 1% of the criminal profits were confiscated at EU level. This means, of course, that 99% of the estimated criminal profits were not confiscated and remain at the disposal of criminals. One of the main reasons of these bad results are for sure the lack of implementation and enforcement of the rules. Indeed, existing AML legislation, which was adopted by the European Parliament and all Member States, need to be effectively implemented and fully enforced. Clearly, high time for this, and therefore welcome the recent steps undertaken by the Commission in this respect. Of course, the adoption of the AML package will take some time. Also, therefore, it's really important that the Commission even intensifies its efforts in this respect. Of course, pointing fingers to each responsibilities will not solve the problem or scare criminals. Indeed, we need a structural content reform, and the AML package published in July with the proposal for a single rule book is an important step in the right direction. The proposal for a single rule book, I have the honor to be one of the two European Parliament co-rapporteurs on, is definitely a key step toward avoid regulatory fragmentation along national lines. More streamlined rules will increase regulatory certainty. Clearly, the same rules for everyone, everywhere. We therefore welcome the extension of the list of obliged entities being subject to AML rules. At the same time, we should wonder whether some sectors should not be added. We know that it's a real problem also in the sporting world. It's also vital that there are stronger rules around beneficial ownership. As demonstrated again by the Bandera Papers, we need to know who is really behind opaque structures and benefits from it. In this respect, I suppose we all can welcome the fact that the Commission introduced an obligation for non-EU legal entities that either enter into a business relationship with an EU obliged entity or acquire real estate in the Union to register their beneficial owner in the EU's beneficial ownership registers. Another key issue we will look into is the role of intermediaries like lawyers, notaries and accountants. Very often they have a key role as facilitator of suspicious transactions, as we know. Therefore, we will have to ensure they will be fully subject to a stringent AML regime, that legal professional privilege cannot be used to cover illegal practices. The recent revelations in the Bandera Papers made it once more very clear that the European Union is not an island in the whole AML story. Following these revelations, the EP adopted a very strong resolution with an overwhelming majority calling for more ambition on a global level. Indeed, a key item in this single rule book will be a better determination of the high-risk third countries. In this respect, it's critical to merge political ambition with pragmatic realism. At the same time, we learned that 2/3 of the shell companies in the Bandera Papers are located in the British Virgin Islands. Against this background, it's important to repeat the European Parliament's message to the Commission to identify possible ways and countermeasures to ensure cooperation and alignment of standards in the area of taxation and anti-money laundering, including through linking the equivalence decisions in the area of financial services to the adoption of the standards for tax transparency and anti-money laundering equivalent to those in the European Union. For sake of time, I will not go here into debate around the limitations of cash, but I'm sure this will be discussed at length in the coming months. A single rule book can only be effective if their correct application is also supervised and enforced. Therefore, to tackle institutional fragmentation effectively, the setting up of AMLA could indeed be helpful. Indeed, it's critical that the institutional architecture is appropriate to ensure information flows swiftly towards where it is needed. Thus, the scope of action needs to be clear, the tools well determined, and the resources sufficient. I expect the coming months still a lot of work on these items, although I hope we do not lose the ultimate objective, a better and stricter enforcement of AML rules via good cooperation between the European Union and national authorities out of sight. At the same time, we need to be vigilant not to duplicate tasks and to avoid that expertise, as, for example, Europol has built up for years, is not left out. Also here we have to strike the balance right in the negotiation process. These are some first preliminary observations on the AML package. I will focus in the first place in the coming months as co-rapporteur on the single rule book proposal, and I would very much appreciate your input, as many amongst you are really the people who know what ought to be done when it comes to the new regulation and what are the needs for comply with the rules on a daily basis. In this respect, I'm convinced that the private sector has a pivotal role to play and that the new technologies could be helpful to reduce the number of false positives and the compliance cost also. I therefore look forward to the ideas of the following panel discussion. Thanks again for the invitation, and I wish you a further fruitful conference.